This is very special for the Hart family to have you all here. You've all meant so much to all of us, and so to have you take the time out of your day, your life, you're traveling here, you're accommodating us in the best way. We thank you tremendously. And we really appreciate it, and Roger would be beyond thrilled. So Roger died actually 3 years ago, and his final wish was to be buried here beside his mother and his daughter. And yet, it got a little difficult to fulfill that wish the older he and Joyce got. So he conceded and said, okay, I will be buried in the VA cemetery in Phoenix, because that's where they live. And because the VA will pay for all that stuff, and then Joyce didn't have to travel and put it all together. But upon reading his final wishes, I couldn't let this go. He owned the plot, and yet the receipt got lost. In the meantime, the county has taken over this cemetery, and so we had to go through a lot of hoops to get him buried where he wanted to be, his final wishes. Unfortunately, we were able to do that, but we had to trace his lineage all the way back to Jesse Rogers, which happens to be, as you all know, Roger had books and volumes of ancestry regarding the Hart family, but not his mother's side. So when I had to prove it, I had to pull out every piece of paper he'd ever written and take little highlights and send it to the county to show he was related to Jesse Rogers' family. And yet, then when the county did this nice little family tree, they said, oh, you're right, but it's not blood, it's marriage. And I said, oh, please don't deny this. Well, let me see what I can do. So the more he dug and dug, he made his little family tree, and he got him back to William Rogers, which was Jesse Rogers' son. And it was through marriage, but I was able to show my dad grew up right next door. This was his playground. These trees were where he climbed and fell, and these sticks are sticks he threw, and the rocks and the everything, the fish, and he's detailed it. So I'm going to try to bring it down to a shorter version, and my intention is to make Roger come alive as a human being that had qualities, had problems, made mistakes, and yet to honor him. So this is a project I've taken on, and I'm going to start. Roger documented himself in book form. I'm going to turn it into a video. So you have to get in your mind's eye and follow me. We're going to have a film, a documentary about Roger's life. And I am going to condense it as best possible. But there were certain things that were, I guess, like light bulb moments for him, or he remembered, or were really instrumental to who he became and was. So that's where I'm going to start. And to get the Rogers family pulled in, we'll start with a picture of a young mother and her young daughter getting off the bus with a suitcase. Well, that was his grandmother, Iva, and his mother, Anna Mae. And they came here from Kentucky for a reason. There was no Tinder then, or whatever people use these days, but there was a man, William, that was a widower and lost his wife. And through friends, they knew Iva, and she was a new divorcee. Come here, you'll love it here. Bring your daughter. He has 2 daughters about your daughter's age. That's what they did, and that's where it starts. And then Iva and William had this huge farm. Huge! I mean like 130 pear trees, fig trees, blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, hogs, chickens, one cow. I don't know why. But it just was the most beautiful place to grow up. They had bees, they had honey, they had, it was just a wonderland. So Anna Mae finds a mate somehow and marries our grandfather. Anna Mae is my grandmother, Roger's mother, and Erlen, his father. They get married, I think it was 1930, and they continue to live there. Erlen then moves to help with the farm. Then a year later, here comes this little boy, a baby boy, and they were ecstatic because they were getting to be old, the grandparents. And so then what are we going to name this little boy? And he was the only kid on the farm. Well, let's name him after Grandpa Jesse. But let's use his last name, Roger. And then Erlen said, well, I have family too. Let's name it after my father too. So Roger Allen became Roger Allen Hart. So that's the connection to Jesse Rogers and this area. Yeah. Turn that off. So
I think they're going to sit there.
Okay, so the garden started producing well enough so that they could just live on that, and Roger's father fished and got pompano, is it?
Pompano.
Pompano fish, enough to provide protein along with the chickens, the hogs, that. But they were able to grow enough to sell and survive even. They started a business, and the neighbors came and would help, and they'd take away basket loads of food. So, he's born now. And then as Roger grew up, he had some cousins that would come and play with him. And in particular, one was Aunt Dita. And she was related to the Rogers side, but about his age. And this was their playground, the Sound. They had a long dock behind the house, and they were probably 5. It was preschool before he went to kindergarten. And they would run, jump off that dock, and just play all day long with abandonment. Well, then there was a little fishing boat. Then they decided they could take the fishing boat and go across to the island. These little kids, they had oars. What was stopping them? So they did that frequently. And it was just, they were like water bugs. And then they decided, we're going to go in the middle of it, turn the boat upside down, and jump off and back on. So they played out there, just an ideal childhood. So that's why this place is special to him. And that's why he wanted to be here. His mother is here too. So, the grandmother was, let's see, her name wasn't Iva. No, that was, anyway, the Rogers' grandmother. When this baby was born, the parents had to go work to supplement the farm with cash because there was no cash. And in 1931, when Roger was born, it was during the Depression. So Erlen and Ann, his parents, had to scrounge for work. They were gone long periods of time, so the grandmother kind of cared for him. And the grandfather was there working hard, and Roger had to work hard too, even as a little boy. We have a picture that'll be at the reception of him milking a cow, probably 3 years old. Well, he had to do his part. He had to fetch water with a pump and carry water to the house so his grandmother could do canning, could do cooking. He'd peel the pears, he'd help her can. But that was a way of life. He didn't know any different. He didn't know they were going without or poor or anything. So he had, his little friends, Aunt Dita, well then a cousin, which I think some of you will recognize the last name. His cousin was about his age, and they moved up in a few doors down. It was Clyde, well, his name was Travis Riddle. And Travis Riddle, finally, my dad has a boy to play with, So he and Travis learned to climb the trees. They learned to throw the sticks. They learned to throw the rocks. They learned kind of mischief. But Grandma was not going to have it. So Grandma would go to the peach tree, get a long switch, and because it was summer, she would chase them if they were bad, and they were, and she'd switch them on the legs. And so, you know, she was on top of it. But that didn't stop them. More mischief was to come. And they would, like I say, throw rocks. One time, Granddaddy Roger threw a rock, and it came down and hit his dog in the eye. Put the eye out. And Roger's documented these things. That's why I'm telling these stories. They had an impression on him. Put the dog's eye out, and he forever was sad about the circumstance that he had caused. There were consequences to not thinking ahead, to not paying attention, to throwing rocks, whatever. So he and Travis were a little bit of a pair, and as they grew up, the local constable and sheriff, now these were all dirt roads, began to know who they were because they got into some mischief, and so they'd just say, you guys, you know, we got our eye on you. They never got into enough mischief to get behind bars. But back to before he went to kindergarten, his grandmother started teaching him to read before age 5. And she had a good friend who happened to be the school teacher to the one-room schoolhouse, grade 1 through, Dad said 5 or 6. And that was Mrs. Pryor was the teacher. Well, Mrs. Pryor was his grandmother's best friend. So they decided they're going to give Roger some studies so that he would have a good start in school. And he became kind of a teacher's pet once he started school. But before he started school, he was reading as a result of his grandmother's efforts and Mrs. Pryor's efforts. And let's see, where am I on? Okay. Anyway, then he goes to high school. And high school was at Fort Walton High. I'm pretty sure he never named it, but I think it was Fort Walton High. And he enjoyed band. He was on the football team, this little scrawny guy. And of course they played the Niceville team. And that was, he said there was a big boy on there that was right across from him. He played, I don't know, is there a right guard or something like that? Anyway, the Niceville guy was right across from him. But he was like, Dad said 400 pounds. My dad was probably 120 pounds dripping wet. But he was always so afraid that this guy would tackle him and land on him and just send him right to China through the dirt. So when they played Niceville, he got really nervous. But then he took up photography in high school too. And he tried to start a little business, but they didn't have a phone, he didn't have a car. It didn't go very far in the high school arena. And, but he took his camera, threw it across, it had a shoulder strap, threw it across his back and climbed the only water tower that there was. And it's not that he was brave, he was scared to death. He was shaking, he didn't know how to climb. It was a ladder 75 feet up. Yet he wanted to take these pictures of the South and of the islands and stuff. He got up there and he got his pictures. He had to take some time to get himself together before he came down, and that was the hard part. He thought for sure he was just gonna slide right down. He made it. He only had 4 pieces of film, and when he came home he developed them, and 2 of them he introduced to the local newspaper, and they took it and published it, and he was thrilled. And they were too, because it was the most, I wish I had copies of that, and maybe we do, but it was the most beautiful view from up high of both directions in 48-ish. Okay. So then came the military, and he decided, and this was the Korean War, and they were inducting people or whatever. And he didn't want to be inducted. He wanted to volunteer so that he would control kind of what department he was able to be in. And he never wanted to pick up a gun. So he wanted to be, oh, let me back up. High school he was in band with the trumpet. So he decided to go out for the Air Force marching band. Well, he didn't make it. So then they said pick another career, and he picked cameras. And so during that Korean War, what are these called? He worked on the B something 52s. Not, I don't think they were bombers, but they were sent out to.
B-26.
No, it had BR. Oh, is that what it says? Thank you. Okay, but these went out and mapped the areas they were going to bomb or whatever. So Roger, these planes had come back, and Roger would have to make sure the cameras were in shape and ready to go back out and fixed and in maintenance. And that kind of helped his photography need and his desire to take pictures. And as we can see, this is what Roger usually looked like, a camera around his neck. So that was a love of his growing up. And but in the Air Force, it was a big culture shock for him to have left Fort Walton, because he was very isolated here and had never really been exposed to the world, and he got really homesick. And so the first Christmas came, and let me see, I'm gonna do some reading. I'm gonna give you his words instead of mine. Anyway, and I'm okay, page 10, because he had a better way with words than I did. So it came time to go home for Christmas, and he had no money. So he arrived at Eglin. Somehow he got to Eglin Air Force Base. I think he was in Laughlin. Laughlin was his boot camp. Anyway, he had to travel to get here. And so he gets there in the evening, 8 or 9, and he had to hitch a ride then and get to Fort Walton to get to the farm. But it was dark. So he said, it was near midnight when I got to Fort Walton, and the streets were practically empty. Since we lived at Wright, which was about 10 miles out in the boonies, I was not sure at all how I was going to get home. Then I spotted the constable and the deputy. They're out patrolling with nothing to do. I went up to them and was surprised they were happy to see me. They asked how the Air Force was treating me, and I related my experience with basic, and I realized how they felt good that my life was now going somewhere. When I explained I had no transportation home, they offered to drive me, and I gratefully accepted. I explained to them that I was surprising my parents with this visit. So when we turned onto the farm dirt road, Oscar, the constable, turned on his sirens and his flashing lights. He started way up there. The house was way down here. Immediately, the lights at the house came on, and Mom and Dad, as well as Grandmother and Granddad Rogers, rushed to the porch to see what all the commotion was about. They must have been as scared as they had ever been to see that car rushing up the middle in the middle of the night. I felt terrible that I scared them, but was certainly happy to greet them when I jumped out of the car and they knew it was not bad news. The constable, of course, got a good laugh at his big joke, but I was grateful for the ride home. So Roger remained a little rascal, even as an older man. So then second Christmas comes along, and he's still by himself. And I think that's conflicting. This was a pivotal moment in Roger's life. Here's little Mr. Roger in his uniform with a cigarette. Okay, so at night, so he was working at the camera shop. He put RB-36 planes were flying a lot of photography missions, and there was a lot of repair work to be done. But his supervisor was a staff sergeant named Harold. It's French.
Boo.
Huh?
Boo.
Boulay. Okay. He was a Cajun from Louisiana and was the first black I had ever worked with, let alone worked for. As a Southerner, it took a little getting used to. Sergeant Boulay was a very nice man, and it was impossible not to like him or to be his friend. He recognized that I had had not much contact with black people and did not make me uncomfortable like some could have in that situation. In 1951, many of the men in the camera shop had put in requests for Christmas leave. I knew that I would not be able to go to Florida this year, so I volunteered to work through the holidays to allow some of the others to take their leave. A few days before Christmas, Sergeant Boulay came to me and asked what my plans were for Christmas Day. I told him that I planned to work, but he said that the flight line would be on lockdown that day, so I could have the day off. He invited me to his home on base for the day to watch his children open their gifts and then to have a meal with them. Realizing I would be uncomfortable, he refused my excuses and insisted that I be there. I finally joined them and enjoyed the children opening their gifts, while Harold and I played with his huge train collection. He had set up hundreds of feet of track through his entire house and had several trains making the rounds of all the rooms in the house other than the bathroom. Promptly at noon, his wife Catherine served the turkey with all the fixing that went along with one of the best meals I had ever had. She was a wonderful cook and a really nice lady who became a dear friend over the next several years. After dinner, Harold showed me his photo collection outlining his long and colorful history in the Air Force. He had been a Tuskegee Airman, one of a group of blacks who were the first allowed to join the Air Force. They were segregated from the mainstream airmen and were assigned specific duties to keep them separated. This experiment worked so well that they were fully integrated into the mainstream Air Force and assigned the same jobs as white airmen, and they proved their worth a second time by rising to levels of supervision at a faster pace than regular inductees. My integration into his world that day gave me the start of a changing attitude in my life, and I came to call him one of my very good friends. I thought that was important to note also. All right, so then it's time for him to, he's been single 2 years in the Air Force. It's time for him to find a bride. And he did. He found her at the skating rink in Denver. He was assigned then to Denver. And they both loved to skate. And my mother was a young 18-year-old, and he was getting shipped out, and she wasn't going to have it that she wasn't going with him. So that was 1952. They were married, and there's an interesting story about the marriage too. This is the last story, not the last, but it's the one I'm going to read. So his buddies helped him put together this wedding. Mary didn't have family. She was naive and all of that. Helped to put it together. They got married at the, what do you call it, the chapel on the base. They were very helpful, and he names them all. They became less helpful when we adjourned back to one of their houses for the reception. There appears to have been an organized conspiracy to get Mary drunk, because there was constantly someone handing her a drink and guiding her to drink it. I'm not sure that she had ever even had a drink before that day, but she certainly was not up to the task they set before her. The picture on the right shows Kenny Grimes attempting to pour coffee down her throat, and I appear to be less than happy about the turn of events. By the end of the reception, she had lapsed into a state of semi-consciousness, unaware, now this is my mother, unaware of her surroundings or herself. With the help of Doris, who helped prepare the wedding. I prepared, I prepared her for bed, and she was not at all aware of what was happening. I slept on the couch near her bedroom that night to be sure she was all right. Then the next morning, we hoped to get the alcohol out of her system so she could feel better. When she woke up, she did not know where she was, did not know who I was, did not know that she had gotten married, and in general had lost her recent memory. Over the next few hours, we plied her with food, drowned her with coffee, and overloaded her with facts. None of it helped. She had withdrawn into herself and was the girl she had been when she was 14 years old. We could not restore her memory of traveling from Denver to Travis Air Force Base, or shopping for our marriage license, taking blood tests, or any of the activities leading up to that moment. She was completely lost. After discussions with Lonnie and Doris, I decided to return to the barracks to go back to work. Meanwhile, I would start to court her all over again. Doris was going to keep working with her to restore her recent memory, and we hoped that we could bring her out of this dimension. As it worked out, it was a temporary loss of memory, and with constant reminders and prompting, we were able to recount for her the recent developments and bring her back to present. The consequence? My honeymoon started about a week late. Then babies started coming, and they came one after the other. 2 of them were born in California at Travis Air Force Base. He got out of the military, they got out of the military, came back here, but they got a home in Fort Walton. He started his own little electronics camera repair business. I came along a year later, so we have one born 1 year, 15 months later, 15 months later, 2 years later, 2 years later. I was born in Valparaiso, then the younger two, somehow we were in Denver.
I was in Valparaiso.
You were Valparaiso? Okay. He was there long enough to have 2 of us.
Yeah.
But he was only 29 years old and had 5 kids. Didn't really have a decent job. They just had bought a car for the first time when I think I was born. So he started working, so he did work on Montauk Point. He went into civil service. There was a failed marriage in Montauk, and he had all of his daughters up there. And so then he returned here, or returned to Scottsdale, as a single man with teenagers to raise, all girls. Well, he decided he needed a little time to himself, and he'd go to the singles dance, and he met Joyce. Joyce was single. She had 4 kids. Roger had 5 kids, and they were all like between 14 and 19. And so there were 9 kids, but they decided, we can do this. We're going to blend this family together. And they did very well with it. And then the family started exploding, and in a miracle way. And all of these 9 kids started having kids, and my dad wanted to start documenting them. He put them down the hallway, on a lineage tree, and whose baby was this? Pretty soon he couldn't keep up. And so he started writing about it and doing ancestry and stuff. But the count stopped at about, I think there were 38 grandchildren, and then like 28 great-grandchildren. Then the greats started coming. He couldn't keep up. So his answer to all of that was that the Hart family, instead of a family tree, they need their own zip code. So he and Joyce had happy years together. She was very devoted to him. When they took their vows, they meant them. So even though there were some hard times, they were able to get through them together and find the beauty in life. And even my dad always kept his wonderment about him. So his family made him very proud. And I guess all I can say is that Roger loved people. He dignified people. He was humble. He put others above him. He was mild and meek. And so I'd like to wrap it up with some of the lessons I learned. And then anyone that wants to speak after me is welcome to come and do so. But what I enjoyed was the value of love and care for each other, thinking about his grandmother and how tender she was with him. He did the same with his parents. Joyce did the same, taking care of him in his later years. He became confused. She had opportunity to put him into a home, and she said, no, I'm not doing that. I meant it when I said in sickness and in health. Fortunately, it went well, and she was able to do that. And then the discipline that he received from his grandmother and from the constable and the deputy. I realized that discipline may hurt, but there are benefits in it too. And then his view that he learned in the Air Force, I learned that it's never too late to pivot our ideas, long-held ideas, on something regarding other people or our differences. It can happen and change and make a big difference in our lives. And then the hard work and determination can bring you a lot of self-value, self-worth, and success, which he clawed at all of that. It never came easy, and yet he attained it. And then if you're going through a hard time, if I'm going through a hard time, it's not the end. It's temporary. It can and it will get better. It's not the end of things. And then that climbing that water tower, even though you're scared to death, try new things, because the beautiful pictures that came out of that were so worth it. So I'm done.
Beautiful.
And so I'm going to conclude now, and anyone else want to get up and talk, just give me a little signal. You don't have to, but you want to? Okay. So Sean, come on up.
Thank you, Annie Karen.
Thank you.
That was very good.
This is my mom. Killed it. We didn't get to spend much time with him. No, I'm good. But when we did, he was the most I'm sorry.
You got it,
Just
brother.
take a deep breath.
You got it.
That's what we're here for.
Just get your breath.
He's the most refined man. With the most structure. The most love. He wouldn't call me by my name, he'd call me grandson. And for some reason, I held that, like, I called him a few times and said, hello, grandson. And I'm not sure what he called his other grandsons, but that
had so many.
That meant a lot to me. We went to Aruba, and you know, you get to see part of your family that you don't really know. And he had his jar of nickels, slot machines, but he spoke so slowly and so perfectly that you listened to every word he said. Because you knew that what he had to say was important. I mean, he had gone through it to be able, like most kids, you don't know what your parents don't know anything, but this guy, you knew he knew. So you would listen to this guy, and miss him.
Thank you.
Is open?
I have a story,
Yes.
if I may.
Oh, very nice. Thank you.
Yes. Forgive me, I don't know many of you. I don't mean to intrude on
Doesn't
this
matter.
space up here.
Doesn't
But
No.
I do
Tell-
have a story.
Tell who you
Introduce
belong to,
yourself.
because it is a big family.
I'm a part of this one right here.
Renee's family.
And in this aspect of life, I have only met this man once. But it was a fantastic memory. And being here, I've relived all of these thoughts I've had about this man. Through his daughter Renee, my grandma, I have learned a lot about him. And when introduced to this family, I was very nervous on a lot of aspects. I was in high school. I had a lot of anxieties about me and uncomfortableness. And Charlene's family has really engulfed me properly, as I felt I was blooded. No second guesses, including you guys today. With that, back to him, enough about me. I had one good story with this man, and we were visiting him in Arizona, I believe. And it was a summer. I was still my little teen angsty self. It was a year into this family, and we were watching a movie with Miss Joyce as well at their home,
Yeah.
The Sixth Sense, and I did not know a lick of it. I was one of the lucky ones that didn't know the spoiler. If anything, was stubborn. I'm like, I already know this movie. I was kind of scared. I was like, oh, it's aliens. I thought it was signs. But nope. They wisened me up and they showed me a beautiful movie. And in that, we had a nice few days with him. And after that movie, everyone kind of went and did something. I don't fully remember, but I was sitting there with him, and it's like the first night we were there. I didn't really get to know him yet. I'm kind of just, again, awkward, my teen self. I didn't really fit in with any of it. But he had a sweet talk with me, and it was one of those really groundbreaking, ice-breaking comfortability. There was no lines there. There was no iffies. There was no, this kid's a little foreign, da-da-da-da. It was very sweet. We talked about careers and this, that, and the other because I was in high school. Still blurry on that. His advice has stuck with me a little bit though. But nonetheless, and I had one more story, is that when we went to the mall, if you remember, Sophia was sitting next to him waiting. He was, at the time, he had that earpiece where Miss Joyce could like speak to him to help him out. And it built a lot of character with that little earpiece. In that 1 week, it was so funny. But nonetheless, Miss Joyce was talking about like his style or something like that. And she said, I don't know what to buy this man. He's always talking about like, I want this and da 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 da. And then she's like, at the same time, he's so simple. And the whole time this was not muted while he was sitting in the hallway with my sister while we're in like Colombia or something. And I'm just having a ball. Nonetheless, enough about those little things with everyone else. But I wanted to say my piece. He was a very sweet man. I'm very glad I got to see you all today and express
Thank you
that.
for coming.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Anyone else? Oh, Judy, come on up. Little Miss Judy. I'm gonna try. Watch out. You know what? It's okay. Here. Take a deep breath.
It's a difficult for me, but
Can you go around so you can be able, Joyce can see you?
Oh, we're on film.
Right where
I don't have good balance.
Don't step back.
Okay, no, right here, yeah.
Poor
Joyce-
balance.
Right in front of that, Joyce can see you. Don't fall.
Oh.
The reason I want to be up here and say this because can you increase your volume?
Mr. Hart, well, I'm not a loud person, but Mr. Hart, my aunt lived across the street from them. And so I would see the kids, little kids, I was little, and we were so young we didn't know names or connections or anything. But of course, as we got a little older, I was over there all the time, always. And to this day, yes, I had a family, and I loved my my biological family. But the Hart family and my heart was my first family, if that tells you. That's deep. And I was over there all the time. And I remember Mr. Hart, when he called me on the phone, he said, "This is Roger." He was Mr. Hart, always to me out of respect. But this one day, he was so used to me being just part of the Hart girls that he, they had a station wagon. He was piling all the girls up to go on a field trip. And of course, I didn't think anything about it, neither did they. I piled right in the back seat and off we went. So that was just a story. And so, then it traveled. We went through our teenage mischief together, trying to, find our way, find our footing, and always through it. So, some of that's difficult, as probably most of us have had years where we had to grow. But just a few years, I got to see him in Fort Walton at Renee's.
Yes.
Do you remember
Yes,
that?
I do.
And he was sitting in the chair. He was older. And I'm telling you what, when I saw that man, I was so heartfelt that I saw him. And I went up to him, and I treasure to this day being able to see him. And but when he called me a couple times, not long before he passed, and he calls me on the phone, and when I heard him say Roger, I'm telling you what, I don't know who in the world, from what level of society they were, would have just made me feel more special than when he called me. And he called me a couple times, and I don't know if you even knew that, but anyway, so that was wonderful. So and I was always a Hart girl in my heart, a Hart girl.
Still are.
So, anyway,
You were special to him too.
and I have
all of us.
nieces. Hart nieces.
Yes, here they are.
So
She
anyway,
was especially close to Renee,
Yes.
especially
She was my
as the
best
years went
friend.
on.
we we were together. We had good times. We had times that were more challenging. Sometimes we were oil and vinegar. But we loved each other. And we would take breaks because I get aggravated with her, or she get aggravated. We always came back. And I was so thankful that that I was with her. And I still love her. And I love all the heart.
She never left Renee's side.
That's true.
And Renee was
Yes.
declining and sick, and she was always there before and after us. We couldn't have asked for a better friend or sister. You weren't born in the hearts, but we pulled you in. I don't know where
Sister
you
from
fit.
another
I'm
mother.
number 3. I'll always be number 3. I don't care where you are. But
Yeah, I wanted to get well, but
yeah.
I love you.
Yeah.
We love you.
Anyone else?
Bad balance.
I'll go. Okay. I am Renee's daughter, Charlene. I am also number 3. We're number 3 together.
Close fourth though.
I just want to say I don't know Roger from Arizona. I don't know Roger from Boston. I know Roger and Joyce, but the Roger I know is Roger and Renee. And he would come down when I was younger all the time to visit Mom and visit us. But us kids used to joke that he wasn't here to see us. He was here to see the cemetery and all the dead people. Yeah. But we didn't care because he really talked really too slow for us. But they sat around on the back porch. I say Grandma because my son's here and my son are here. But Renee and Roger would sit on the back porch and talk about all the genealogy stuff. And we'd ride along and we'd go, you know, the northern to Crestview and poke around cemeteries a lot when I was a kid. And Erin and I, my twin sister, who wishes she was here today, but couldn't be, we would run around while they would be with their pencil and pen documenting. This is in the 90s, so they were documenting all the hearts that they would find in the area. And Erin and I would just run around and try to find the oldest cemetery headstones and stuff. But Roger loved oysters, and Roger loved magnolia trees, and he loved the water, and he loved Renee, and he loved the South, and that's the Roger that I know. And I didn't realize it until recently, but that's who I am too. And I get it from the both of them. So I'm very grateful that I get to raise my Boggy boy here. I'm very grateful that our family's from this area, because this is my home. And I know all of you are from Arizona and Washington and a dozen other places, but this is my home. And I'm very grateful to Grandma Hart and Granddaddy Hart for putting this place on my heart, because this is my home, and I thank you for that. Yeah, it's very special. Thank you.
Thanks, Shirley.
Anyone else? Amanda Faye? First grandchild.
First grandchild.
Number one.
Number one.
Ooh, that means you're old. Only as old as I feel. So I'm Randa. I am Renee's oldest daughter. And so he was my granddaddy. And I'm not going to call him Roger. I can't. He was granddaddy. And I don't ever remember a time that Grandma Hart was not my grandma. I know they married when I was probably 3 or 4 years old, maybe a little bit older. But I have so many good memories because I was an only child for 7 years. I was able to go hang out with Grandma and Granddaddy at the townhouse. Heber at the cabin in Heber.
Yes.
And I remember riding around with Granddaddy in he drove a van, and it probably had something to do with his electronics shop. And riding with him, I guess I called Grandma Hart every Friday and said, Grandma Hart, can I stay the weekend with you, please? And either she would come get me or Granddaddy would come get me. And I remember riding with Granddaddy, and if Paul Harvey was on the radio, silence, but I still love Paul Harvey because of that. But yeah, I mean, I got to see the Arizona Granddaddy when I was little, and him and Grandma Hart were newlyweds with this huge brood, and they intertwined both families so well that I have the best memories of my mom's sisters. I mean, there were 5 of them, but I also have the best memories with Grandma Hart's kids, who are my step aunts and uncles. I mean,
Yeah.
not really though. But I also got a taste of Granddaddy in Florida, and him coming here, and his and Mom's bond, Charlene's right. It was just, he was Mom's favorite person in the entire world. She didn't even like us that much. We're our kids. She's like, oh, Dad's coming. I think I'll put in new countertops. Let's get all brand new furniture in the entire house. Dad's coming, you know. But he was her favorite person. And she had so much joy in her heart when he was around. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm grateful that she had that in her life, and she had her person. So.
Thank you, Randa.
The rest of the story.
Yeah, and that is the rest of the story.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, if no one else wishes to speak, I think we're gonna move on with a closing prayer, and I've asked Dad's cousin, right, cousin? First cousin, Chris Faircloth, to come and say a prayer on the family's behalf. So if you wouldn't mind coming up here.
I was just going to say, there was a big age difference with me and my first cousins. So a lot of the interaction that I had with him, I was a kid basically, but I remember at some point seeing him after I'd gotten in the Air Force, and we had something in common there, and he seemed to be really interested in talking to me about the Air Force. But, okay, I have a Reverend Google prayer, but I'm going to go ahead and wing it.
Can you do it up here in front of the camera so
Sure.
Joyce and
Watch your step.
your bone?
Sure. Let's bow our heads and pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day you've given us for this occasion. We thank you for this cool breeze that you provided. And Father, we thank you for Karen and all the work she put into this memorial service. And we ask your blessing on all the family and everybody represented here today. And if there's anyone, Father, who is having trouble still dealing with the loss of Roger, we just pray that you would wrap your loving arms around them, give them peace and comfort for all the days coming. And Father, we just thank you for all you do and all your provisions in our lives. And we ask you to give us safe travel when we leave here today. And all this we ask in your precious name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, and then I've asked his grandson, Dustin, to conclude, and he'll give us some instructions.
So
after
instructions.
this.
This will be fast. I don't have water, so my mouth is kind of dry now. I had a lot to say. I don't think I'm going to say all of it, and I apologize in advance if I offend some people. I'm not trying to. Makes it brevity. Thank you, sir. First off, I would imagine some of you might not be aware, Grandma Hart was supposed to be out here. She was going to fly with me out here and spend the time. Unfortunately, last minute, she had a sudden illness and was not able to make it out. So we are recording for her, and we all miss you, Grandma, and I hope you get better soon. Let's also keep her in mind as we go through this. I'm sure she really appreciates us being out here. Again, I'm Dustin. I'm granddad's favorite, I guess.
Oldest grandson.
Oldest grandson. Am I?
Favorite is a better
Favorite.
term.
Favorite. Yeah. Even before we get to that, I guess. I know he's had a lot of impact in all of our lives. Some good, some bad. Hart family dynamics are very, very, very dynamic. We hate each other a lot of time. We love each other some of the time, and in between most of the time. Some of you guys might not even be aware. Grandpa and I actually weren't even close until I moved to Arizona to go to college. I did not have a good relationship with a lot of family members. We lived in Las Vegas for a lot of the time after we moved out of Arizona. So when I moved over there, I wanted to kind of develop more roots with our extended family. I tried to get to know him a little bit better. I tried to have more patience than I probably would have had. He is very long-winded. I would listen to his stories. And with those stories, I started seeing a little bit more common interest. We were both in the Air Force. I was still in the Air Force at that time. We both loved DIY, electronics. Photography was a big part of our life too. He and I both loved travel. We also loved watching reality TV. You know, he was a very big conservative Republican. I was a bleeding heart liberal at the time, still am somewhat. So, you know, you think our heads would bash, but we found those commonalities. We loved watching Thick Latinas Gone Wild. Legal Latinas Gone Wild. I want to make sure that is, you know, and that show was all about the process of getting your immigration status. Whatever you guys were thinking, way off, way off. But you know, I also helped work with genealogy, and you know, the Hart family from granddad all the way down was very, very big. He was a great, great grandfather many times over when he passed. I don't even know how many great grandkids. He potentially on the verge of that being a great, great, great grandfather before he passed. You know, helping him on his computer work on the genealogy, it was amazing looking at our family tree. It got to a point where the tree no longer had branches; they were spread legs. I know. It was really bad, but brevity, right? He liked these jokes. Grandma loves these jokes. One of the biggest regrets I have with actually being in the military, getting married, is not being able to have him experience all the joys he brought to our lives when we had those kids. You know, and I really wish my daughter and my wife was able to spend more time with my grandfather. It was a difficult thing to finally come to terms with saying goodbye to him. So I miss him.
He loved you.
He did.
So, reception. On the brochure, there's going to be parking, a lot of parking on the other side when we get to the place. There's going to be barbecue there, plenty of space. Kids could run around and have fun. And when you guys turn in, there's, I think, A, B, C, D units. We're unit A. So make sure you don't knock on the door where the bachelor party's going on. Yeah.
We might join them.
Yeah. But park across the street. There's some food trucks and kind of an open lot. There's a little bit more parking over there.
Unless you have a disability, you can park
Yeah.
right in the
Yeah.
driveway.
So, in conclusion, we all miss Grandpa. Great day to be out here, and we're all missing.
Thank you.
So, thanks.
Thanks.
Good job, guys.
Please join us at the reception. And I think 11 miles, I think it's over the bridge, right? Yeah. So we'll see you all there, I hope. Otherwise, we appreciate the efforts that you all took to come.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen, Frida?
That hair.
Is it possible?
Oh, I forgot to say.
That we could match family to, like your family stand up. Who belongs to you? Who belongs to
Yes, okay, yes.
Do you want us
She
just
has
to
one more
stand
thing
on
to
Mom's
say and then we'll do that.
headstone?
There was a donation going down on behalf